Hi kids, are you ready to make your double chocolate biscotti? Now biscotti is a very dense cookie, or some people call it a biscuit. And the reason why that it's dense and it's somewhat dry looking and even tasting is because people in Italy dip these into beverages like their tea, their coffee, their hot cocoa, or even warm milk. And that's why biscotti is so delicious and really fun. With the bags that you got into your kit, these are perfect to give as a gift. Just wrap them up in the bags, use your Baked with Love stickers, and give them as a gift. They stay fresh for a very long time. Are you guys ready to get started? We are first going to use one bowl that's going to be for our dry ingredients. The first thing you're going to do is add 2 cups of all-purpose flour, and then you're going to add 1/2 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder, not the sweetened kind, unsweetened, and then 1 teaspoon of baking soda. I almost said baking powder, not baking powder, baking soda. And then in this little bowl, I have a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, which is optional. Then using your whisk, you're going to whisk that really well together. It's really important that when you use like baking soda or baking powder, salt, smaller ingredients, you want to make sure it's mixed really, really well so that it distributes through all of that flour, so you don't get those spots of baking soda. So now we're going to make the wet ingredients, and we're going to need an electric mixer. I have 1 stick of room temperature butter, and I'm going to beat that really well and then add the 1 cup of sugar. So now you want to turn the mixer off, bring the beaters up, and this is where we're going to add our 2 eggs and mix them really, really well. Now that we have our 2 eggs in there, I can turn the beater back on. We're going to mix that really, really well. I stopped the beater. Now I'm going to add my 2 teaspoons of vanilla and mix that, and then scrape the bowl down really, really well. Okay, now it's time to add our wet ingredients to our dry ingredients. And you'll need a spoon, like a wooden spoon, instead of a whisk, because it's going to make a very thick dough. Go ahead and mix that dough. It looks like it's not going to mix all together, but it will. Just got to give it some time. When it's about halfway mixed, this is the time to add your 1 cup of chocolate chips. This is what makes it our double chocolate chip, because we're adding 2 different types of chocolate. We have our unsweetened cocoa powder, and then we have our chocolate chips. And now it forms this dough. So you need to preheat your oven to 350 degrees and get a baking sheet with parchment paper. So with your baking sheet and parchment paper, if you don't have parchment paper, go ahead and grease it with some butter or some oil, just a little bit at the bottom so it doesn't stick. You're gonna take your dough and divide it into half. And this does require you using your hands. So you're basically going to take your hands and roll it into one big long log. I know it looks weird. And just kind of spread it out. Make sure the sides are all looking the same. It will spread out a little bit when it bakes, like a typical biscotti. Okay? It's like one log there. I'm gonna do another one. This one turned out to be a little bit longer, which is fine. We're gonna let these bake. Now these are going in the oven for 35 minutes, and then we're going to cut them into 1-inch pieces and flip them over and bake them again. All right, going into the oven. The biscotti is out of the oven and I've let it cool for about 10 minutes, but the pan's still gonna be hot. So I'm gonna either keep a towel here or a hot pad. And I've already cut these into 1-inch pieces. I'm gonna go ahead and cut these now. And just very carefully cut them into pieces. Oh, it smells amazing. So, so good. Now what you're going to do is very carefully, without touching the pan, you're going to turn these over on the side. And you can put them really close to each other because they're not going to spread anymore. And what this is going to do is we're going to put them back into the oven, still at 350 degrees, for about 10 minutes. And what it's going to do is it's going to bake the top part here. And the pan is already hot, so it's going to bake the underneath. And it's going to dry these cookies out a little bit more. And the reason why we want them dry is because when they get dipped into a beverage, we don't want them to fall apart, right? So we're just gonna turn them over. We're gonna bake them another 10 minutes. I'm being very, very careful not to touch the pan. If you can make sure you do that. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this little piece off and turn that over. I'm gonna take this little piece and cut that and turn that over too. Okay, back in the oven for 10 minutes. Now that your biscotti is cooled down, go ahead and put it in the bags. Take your bakery bags. You can tie them around with a little ribbon if you want. And put it in your bag. Oops. And tie it up like that. And take one of your stickers. And it says baked with love. Now the nice thing is you can decorate any way that you want, put their name on it, and make this as a little gift to give to your friends.